The Baltimore County Police Department is one of the largest municipal police departments in the nation and has been in existence since 1874. The Baltimore County Police Foundation has been in existence for more than 36 years and has been recognizing the accomplishments of department members for just as long. The first award category is for community service. This award may be given to any individual who over the past 12 months has compiled an outstanding performance record in service to the community, or has performed a single outstanding community service activity that would merit unusual recognition. This year, the award was presented to Sergeant Mandy Biter and Officer Tabitha Hayes of the Parkville Precinct.
We talked about it amongst the shift about doing a community outreach for the holidays to help a needy family. I went to Villa Crest Elementary School and spoke to the school counselor there to see if they could identify a family that was in need.
The school connected Sergeant Biter with a single mother of 4 who had lost her father and her home recently.
I asked the mom to have the children write a letter to Santa. 2 of her children are of age where they believe in Santa, so I wanted it to be Santa giving them the gifts. So the mom sat them down and had them write a letter to Santa Claus as to what they wanted for Christmas. Then I went and picked them up when the kids weren't home. I then made copies, posted them in the precinct so everyone could see what the children wanted, put a list so everyone could decide what they wanted to buy the kids to fulfill their list to Santa, and then some of the things that they needed that mom knew, clothing, science kits, books, things like that that she knew that they would want or need.
Officers in the Parkville precinct turned into Santa's helpers in blue, checking off presents on each child's list, even buying a crib and a mattress for the youngest child.
We loaded them. Actually, I have a truck, so we, with a crib and a bicycle and all those things, we loaded all the presents into my truck and drove it over kind of caravan style, and everybody was so excited just to be able to share these gifts with the kids. And there were neighbors across the street who saw what we were doing, and they were so touched by our generosity in giving these gifts that they brought over some gifts and some food and to celebrate with the family as well, to introduce themselves to their new neighbors and to try to celebrate the holidays with them. I feel, especially for me, and I think it was for every other officer, you almost feel like a kid yourself, because that's what the holidays are about, and that's what being a police officer is about, giving back to somebody else.
She had told her children, this isn't going to be a good Christmas for us. And for us to be able to turn that around and really make it the best Christmas they've ever had, just very, very special. That's what I want to teach my daughter. That's what I want her to learn, is that it's not about you getting gifts, or it's about what you can do for other people to make their holiday. Because there's always someone that's struggling more than you are.
The generosity from Precinct 8 didn't stop there. Sergeant Biter and Officer Hayes used extra funds and donations from local businesses to put together gift baskets for 3 residents at Morningside Assisted Living in Parkville, who may have otherwise been forgotten during the holidays.
Just seeing how absolutely shocked and surprised they were really, like I said, brought me to tears, and the other officers who were there. It was a pretty emotional scene, and just a lot of hugs and a lot of smiles, and really good conversation with the people who really didn't have anybody else on Christmas. We can't take full credit for this. You're talking about dozens, if not hundreds of people who really came together and made this happen, and with the generosity of them and with our community and the PCR, we couldn't have done this without them.
The second award category is crime prevention. This award may be given to any individual who over the past 12 months has made outstanding contributions to the prevention of crime by such actions as educating citizens in public safety measures, designing improved security techniques, developing and implementing effective crime prevention strategies or tactics, solving long-standing or particularly serious crime problems, or carrying out a single act of crime prevention that would merit unusual recognition. This year, the award has been presented to Detective Albert Carl Lindhorst, Jr.
One of the major things that I do is I go out and I do vulnerability or security assessments for critical infrastructure, key resources throughout Baltimore County. Let's say, for an example, a facility that houses a lot of employees or a lot of students or a lot of workers, that type of thing. That's what we consider soft targets, because there's really no controls to keep somebody that wants to do something bad out of that facility. A lot of these facilities we go into, the smaller facilities, are what are considered soft targets. So they don't have a lot of the security and the CCTV and all these other security provisions in place. So we go in and do an assessment which allows them to take a look at a list of recommendations and say, okay, this would be best for us, or this would be best for us to implement.
Detective Lindhorst won the Foundation's Crime Prevention Award 2 years ago. He worked with outreach officers to perform assessments of more than 170 public schools in Baltimore County.
There's a lot of other officers in this department whose main job is crime prevention. And I see myself as being very fortunate to be picked, because in my opinion, any of those other officers from any of those other precincts could be sitting in this chair right now. We want you to pick up the phone and call us. To you, it might not be important enough to call 911. For us, we could actually look into different aspects of that, and it might connect itself with something else that may have happened to a neighbor or an area business or that type of thing. Don't hesitate to call us. We're here to help. That's our job, and we need your help in order to allow us to help you.
The third award category is Distinguished Contribution to the Profession. This award may be given to any individual who has recognized a need and, through dedication of effort and duty, formulated, developed, and implemented plans which have introduced new innovative ideas, enhanced the professional image of the department, saved money, saved time, increased effectiveness, or raised the morale of the department. This year, the award was presented to Mr. Mike Leedy of the Crime Analysis Section.
We capture a lot of crime and incident information down in the Crime Analysis Section. We have two sides, basically. One works with the very standardized UCR information that the FBI collects. The tactical side is a little bit more selective in what they look at. Tend to do is look at things that are, they have something in common, maybe a common suspect, suspect vehicle, method of operation, something that we can look at and tell the officer out on patrol, this is happening in your area. It's also happening perhaps, in the surrounding jurisdictions or police posts. We have this type of suspect, we have this type of crime that's happening during this time of day of week, and just to give them an idea of when it might be the best time to patrol in a specific area.
The department transitioned to a new operating system not compatible with the Regional Crime Analysis Program. Mr. Leedy saved the department significant time, money, and resources by writing a new program himself.
If we would purchase something from an outside vendor, they tend to be relatively expensive. You can't always import the tactical data that you already have into the system that you purchase.
He found the new program gives officers and analysts more flexibility in how they conduct their investigations.
When we were using the old system, we had to either get a physical copy of a report, or we had to get a brief summary that was sort of filled out by the officer as a scan form. It was sort of like when you take a test and you fill in the little circles and say, this is the answer, and then they scan that and give you an immediate calculation of what your score is. These were fairly nice to have. They didn't give a lot of detail, but at least they let us know what type of crime and where it was going on. The new program is actually very flexible because we have control of what goes into it. We have control of all the queries, all the tables. At this point, we are extracting directly from FBR, the field-based reporting, any burglaries, robberies, and vehicle thefts, and we have access to those incidents basically as soon as they are approved at the precinct level.
Mr. Leedy says he receives great satisfaction in using his knowledge and training to build something to help the department as a whole, and he is grateful to the Police Foundation for their recognition.
Until I got the award, I didn't know there was a police foundation, so I had to quickly go on the internet and see exactly who these people were and why they were giving me an award. The people that are involved in this, they have an actual interest in the Baltimore County Police Department, that they actually feel like they're stakeholders in this. I guess the feeling is sort of humbling more than anything else, because I didn't really expect to receive anything, other than, this is something that my people in my unit can use, but it's nice to know that people from the outside can look at this and say, oh, yes, it's good to see that people within the department are actually, working to improve their own situation.
The fourth award category is Exceptional Performance. This award may be given to any individual who during the past 12 months has made outstanding contributions towards keeping the community safe by performing exceptional amount and or quality of police activity, developing and implementing effective operational strategies or tactics, or conducting a skillful and persevering investigation of a complex nature. This year, the individual award was presented to Sergeant Alan Meyer and Detective Gary Childs of the Homicide Unit.
The case began on April 20th of 2000. My squad and myself were up in the homicide office when we got called from the Dundalk precinct. They had indicated that they had a homicide. We found Heidi's body lying on the floor in the living room. We later found out that she had been strangled and had her throat slit.
Detectives examined the crime scene and found two motives for murder.
Over top of the body where Heidi was on the floor was a number 1 written on the wall in lipstick.
Detectives also questioned Heidi's boyfriend of 2 years, Stephen Cook. Cook told police he had dropped Heidi off at the home the couple rented in Dundalk, and when he returned, he found her body and called 911. Investigators found a third motive that pointed directly to Cook.
We found it a bit odd when we learned that there were policies in the amount of $700,000 on Heidi and $900,000 on Stephen Cook. It just seemed to be excessive, considering they really didn't have any relationship other than boyfriend and girlfriend.
Cook told police after he dropped Heidi off at home, he went to a nearby shopping center, tried cashing a check at the Mars supermarket, used the ATM, and got his hair cut. He then took Heidi's car for an oil change and went to Home Depot. Cook's alibi checked out.
Mr. Cook provided all the receipts and all of the locations he was prior to finding Heidi's body. Very cooperative at that point. When we confronted him with some of the issues and how odd some of these things were, that he had all the receipts and was able to recite all the places he was and the times he was there, we felt it was odd. He got agitated with us, basically asking if we were accusing him of killing her.
Heidi's parents, Walter and Donna Brunetzakowski, had their suspicions about Heidi's boyfriend, remembering trouble between the couple in the months before her murder. Cook stopped cooperating a few months into the investigation. DNA recovered from Heidi's fingernails didn't match Cook or anyone in a criminal database. Detectives say 3 weeks before her murder, Heidi told friends about a man who posed as someone wanting to start a neighborhood watch.
She wouldn't let him in, but he scared her. And at one point, he stuck his left arm in the door to pet the dog. And she noticed a tattoo that he had on his left forearm. So she was telling her friends at work about this tattoo and how this guy scared her. And she had seen him hanging around the neighborhood a couple times, just lurking out front.
Police had few leads until 2011, when Sergeant Meyer returned to Homicide and retested Heidi's fingernails. Thanks to advances in DNA technology, they found a match. Police in Colorado told investigators Alexander Bennett's description matched the man Heidi saw in her neighborhood more than 10 years earlier. Detectives were able to place Bennett in Baltimore at the time of the murder, thanks to a wanted check by another agency.
A toll facilities police officer at 3 o'clock in the morning finds Alexander Bennett walking down 895 toward the Harbor Tunnel. So he stops Alexander Bennett and he runs a wanted check on him. Well, that wanted check stayed in the computer for now we're at 11 years.
During an interview, Alexander Bennett admitted to traveling to Baltimore with a group of friends for a concert.
There was a particular concert they went to called Up in Smoke. While I was doing the interview, Al got on the computer, looked it up, and in fact, in 2000, Up in Smoke was giving concerts, but they weren't here at that time in April when the murder occurred. They really weren't scheduled until August or September, I believe, of that summer. He continued telling us that when he got here, though, his friends abandoned him and he was kind of homeless for a while, just wandering around.
Detective Childs confronted Bennett about how his DNA wound up under Heidi's fingernails.
And he looks at me and he's like, you know, I did have contact with one girl, I was standing in a bus stop, and for some reason she just came up and started attacking me. And she was like clawing at my neck and screaming all these things about she seen me in the neighborhood and she's scared of me and why are you here? And
you know, I was trying to fight back and I think I hurt her, I'm not sure.
Detective Childs then asked Bennett to pick out the woman from a lineup.
And out of all the pictures of all the different girls, he picked her out.
In addition to identifying Heidi in the photo lineup, Alexander Bennett showed Detective Childs a tattoo on his left arm, just like the one Heidi described to coworkers. However, it wasn't enough to charge him. For an alibi, Bennett pointed detectives to a friend of his, Grant Lewis. When investigators spoke with Lewis, he put together vague details about Bennett's time in Baltimore.
He indicates to us that upon Alex's return, he was telling him a story. They had gotten some beer and went down by the river and were down there talking. And out of the blue, Alex said he was involved in a situation in which a person got hurt.
The statement from Grant Lewis and other evidence were what Meyer and Childs needed for a warrant to extradite Alexander Bennett back to Maryland. Prosecutors planned to use Grant Lewis as a witness at trial, which came 2 years later in 2014. The day of trial, there was a twist. Alexander Bennett agreed to plead guilty and told investigators all about the murder-for-hire plot.
They were going to put this thing online about being contract murderers, but they hid it in an ad that they were cleaners, like they were cleaning service.
Cook, who was looking for somebody to kill somebody, it was just out fishing. So I don't know what terms he threw out on the internet to try to grab that, but at some point, whatever Cook was looking for grabbed Grant Lewis's ad.
Bennett's confession pegged Grant Lewis as the middleman, and he was able to pick out Stephen Cook as the man who hired them. Heidi's family had the answers they prayed for every day for over 15 years. Grant Lewis and Stephen Cook were both arrested and charged in connection with Heidi's murder. As a part of his plea, Alexander Bennett testified against Lewis and Cook and received a 30-year prison sentence. Grant Lewis, who testified against Stephen Cook at trial, is serving a life sentence. Stephen Cook, who maintained his innocence throughout his trial, will also spend the rest of his life in prison.
For what he did, he deserves it. And I pray for him and Grant Lewis as well as Alexander Bennett.
When a girl like that or anybody like that gets killed, when they've really done nothing in their life to give a reason for this to happen, they're different. They hit you harder.
I think that our feelings about both of these magnificent, God-sent police officers, if that they are the epitome of what comes from all of the police department in Baltimore County. They were totally professional, very patient, diligent, determined. Words cannot express our extreme gratitude, eternal gratitude for what they did to bring this case to a closure. It still doesn't bring Heidi back, but maybe she can rest in peace now.
The fifth category is Exceptional Group Performance. This award may be given to any group of 3 or more who, during the past 12 months, has made outstanding contributions towards keeping the community safe by performing exceptional amount and/or quality of police activity, developing and implementing effective operational strategies or tactics, or conducting a skillful and persevering investigation of a complex nature. The group award was presented to the Child Sexual Exploitation Unit. The members are Sergeant Kenneth Smith, Detective Christina Childs, Detective Dana Kaczynski, Detective Christopher Raut, and Detective Joshua Reese.
There are websites out there that these people go to, and they'll try and make contact with minors. So what we do in Baltimore County, we will go to these websites and essentially try and see if they find us. And once they do, of course, the dialogue starts and continues to the point where they're asking for sexual acts, If they show up or try to meet the child, we're there, and that's when we arrest them.
The Crimes Against Children Unit initiates its own investigations online, follows up on tips from citizens, and checks out suspicious activity on social media sites like Facebook, Snapchat, Kik, and Instagram. This is delicate and difficult work for detectives and can be traumatizing for victims.
Children are often, when they're exploited on the internet, we have to realize that they're actually crime scene photos of these children. A lot of times, people think that, just because it's on the internet, it's not real. So, when we actually put names and faces and ages to these children, they are then identified as being victims.
I think what a lot of people don't understand, especially when you're dealing with live victims, is we can recover a video or an image of a child who's being sexually abused, and then go talk to that child, and believe it or not, that child will not disclose, even though we have, the evidence that they were abused, because we're asking them to talk to total strangers. We've just met them about one of the most horrific things that have probably ever happened to those children.
Detectives say parents also don't realize the constant presence of smart technology and access to the internet make children more vulnerable to predators who can hide their activity in the palm of their hand.
A lot of times most people hear what we do and they don't want to hear anything else. That's something that they want to just pretend that isn't out there, and unfortunately it's out there, it's prevalent. And 20 years ago, these people that wanted access to our children, they had to befriend them, they had to be the next door neighbor, they had to do it. Now with electronic devices, these people are in our kids' bedrooms, they're in our living rooms, they have access to these children 24/7, and it's important to catch them before they actually harm children.
In 2015, the Crimes Against Children Unit conducted 198 investigations and reviewed 201 cyber tips from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They also served 97 search warrants and arrested 54 people for sexual exploitation of children and possession of child pornography.
I think where we're fortunate in Baltimore County, as opposed to other agencies, is that the 5 of us are specifically assigned to investigate these sort of crimes. A lot of other jurisdictions, they don't have full-time child pornography, child exploitation detectives. And I think because we all work together every day, we're more effective. We all bring something to the table when it comes to these investigations, and I think that's why we're so successful in it.
We're trying to save these children. They're being abused by people who they looked up to, their family members, their mom, their dad.
People they trust.
People they trust. So if we can get in there and we can save them early enough, when they grow up, maybe they'll have meaningful relationships. They won't turn to drugs. They won't have mental problems. They won't be suicidal. We can save them if we get in there.
We're like a family. I mean, these guys I'm so close to, even though we bicker sometimes, which is natural. We're with each other more than we're with our family sometimes. And I think for us getting this, it's actually it gives us a satisfaction because we've been doing it for so long and nobody has ever recognized us.
Extremely disturbing and graphic sights that we see and images that we deal with every day. But I think it's the most rewarding position I've ever worked.
The final category is Valor. The award may be given to any individual who over the past 12 months has exhibited courage, attended by extraordinary decision, presence of mind, and unusual swiftness of action, regardless of his or her personal safety, in an effort to save or in saving the life of any person or persons in actual imminent danger, or in the apprehension of a dangerous felon. This year, the award has been presented to Officer William Flaherty and Officer Bernardo Tubaya.
I got off at 47, which is 195 going the wrong way. It's going to be in the Wilkins area.
It was Valentine's Day. I was on a patrol on the west side of the county. I got notification from the east side that MSP had a pursuit coming down southbound 95. I believe MSP lost the vehicle through Baltimore City, and then I believe Woodlawn saw the vehicle coming through Cook's Lane, I believe, for Forest Park. And from there was when I guess Officer Flaherty started the second pursuit of the vehicle.
I told my partner, I was like, hey, let's drive up the street and see if we can find it. And we went down the street about a block and it passed us.
The driver of the Honda Pilot refused to stop. Instead, he engaged officers in a 30-mile pursuit around 695 at speeds in excess of 80 miles per hour. The pursuit then turned to Route 702 in Essex.
He started getting some distance on us, and when he went around the circle, he was just going too quick, lost control, and hit a vehicle that was there.
Slid off the road. Think they're gonna have him in custody here in just a second.
Officers approached the car after the crash.
When we approached the vehicle, the driver didn't even look at us. He was so intent on trying to get away, he didn't notice that his vehicle was completely disabled. So he was still trying to rev the engine up, trying to get out of there, but he couldn't.
There was also the driver of the vehicle that he hit, the Honda Accord, was clearly upset that he was in an accident, so he got up and started running up to the vehicle, so my first priority was to get him out of the way.
As we approached the vehicle, the suspect has both his hands on the steering wheel. Officer Furley was to my left, but due to the way the vehicles were crashed, he was kind of pinched in. When the suspect noticed that he couldn't go anywhere, I saw him look to his right and put his hand in between the driver's seat and the middle console. At that point, I knew that something was going to happen. While he was doing that, Officer Flaherty was trying to break the window to get access to the driver. When I noticed that the suspect was probably trying to grab a weapon, I attempted to grab Officer Flaherty to pull him back, but at that same time, the driver pulled out a handgun.
I saw him reaching down, and it appeared that he was bringing something up, but I couldn't tell exactly what it was until I heard somebody was yelling, "Gun, gun, gun," and that's when everything happened.
At the time, I didn't know that Officer Flaherty had got hit until we could tell that the driver was incapacitated. I happened to see him hunched over and grabbing his shoulder. That's when he said, I think I was hit.
When I felt the impact, I knew what had happened. My first priority was to make sure the threat was taken care of before I started worrying about that, and I didn't know if anybody else was hit. So once I saw that nobody was laying on the ground and I was the only one hit and the threat was taken care of, I looked down at it, and the vest caught the round, but the round actually went through my vest, and it was kind of in my chest a little bit. And when I could pull my shirt down, I pulled my vest down, and it was just swollen up real. I remember when I originally saw him and I passed him, the thing that sticks out was what he was wearing. It almost looked like a fake movie. Like he had a jacket. It looked like he had something up around his neck, and he had glasses on and like a baseball cap. And it just looked so out of place.
We're not used to having Kentucky vehicles come through this area, so it's just, after you just drive for so long, you know, you have like a sixth sense where you can tell something that's going to go bad at any time. So I kind of stuck out in my head that I don't think this is going to turn out right when it finally ends. Afterwards, I actually thought about a couple of days later that if we didn't come in contact with him, I had a feeling that he was going to literally be maybe like an active shooter based off what he did to his family. And I knew sooner or later he was going to do more damage somewhere based off the amount of guns and ammo that he had in this vehicle.
It's funny you say that, because I actually thought the same thing. I thought just his behavior, what he did to his family, and the amount of weapons he had.
His mind was already set to do damage. I think he was just waiting just for an opportunity to wreak havoc on some other people.
That brings us to the end of this edition of Police Report, brought to you by the men and women of the Baltimore County Police Department and Chief Jim Johnson. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you will be with us next time. I'm Captain Raut McCullough saying, be kind to one another.